Okay, so now it looks like you guys should be able to see my screen. I'm gonna make it large. Okay, so here's the course website. And to get to the lab, I've had a couple people ask how to get to the labs. Um, you just go to content. And so this one is Newton's Law. So I'm just going to click on 1 through 4. And then the labs and all the assignments show up over here on the right side. So I'm just going to click through the pages. Obviously, you should be watching the, reading the content and all of that. But if you just need the lab, you can go here and you can just click on it and it'll download right there. Okay, so I've already downloaded it. And then when you get to the lab, you can it gives you a Word file like this. Alternately, if you don't want, you can go on the main page and you can go down here and there's a link to every single lab as a PDF. So you can, click on that and that'll get you where you need to go as well. Additionally, you can click on the course resource newsletter and when you see the lab, you can click on that and that'll take you to the lab handout as well. And this one also, this is where I answer questions that you guys have had, and we just started this unit, so there's not a ton of questions and things. But that's where all that stuff is as well. So that's how you get to the lab. Now, we've got the lab, and then you just click on this link, and it takes you to this vet website, and you see this right here. And then you just hit download, and it'll download. For me, it said it'll only allow websites from certain places. And so I had to go into my security settings. And there was a little thing right here. And I said, yes, I do want to download it. But that's, that. And then you get to this. Okay, so when I do the lab, I like to have the lab and the lab instructions in one place so I can kind of see both at the same time. And so I see what I need to do. So I'm just going to read through this. Okay, so it says click on the slider to the left of the force graph and slide the bar up to a value of 1,000 newtons or as high as you can get. Now what I did actually is I just typed in 1,000 and that worked for me. So that's how I got the forces exactly the way they wanted. And then it says on the right side of the screen, toggle friction off. So I'm just going to take this friction and I'm going to turn it off. And you can see they have a free body diagram up here. So when friction was on, it was right here. And then friction is off and they have it right here. Okay. Then it says click on the graph acceleration and graph velocity buttons to show these two graphs. Okay. So graph acceleration and graph velocity. Okay. And then hit press the go and watch the person press the file cabinet and press stop or pause before they get to the end. So they're pushing it pretty slowly. And you can see the graph is moving right here. You can see the acceleration one is flat and the velocity one is increasing, okay, as he gets going. Okay, so I paused it before he got to the end. And then it says sketch the force first time graph. So what I would do is if I had the PDF, I would just, draw a line right here for force first time. And it wants you to see acceleration velocity, right? But you can click on applied force and it'll show you that as well. Okay, so you can see there's a red line right here, and that's your friction force. And then there's a green line right here. That's your applied force. And then at any time you want to get rid of one of these graphs, you can do this. Then you can see it a little better. See, now we can see the red one. The friction was 0. We set that. And then up here, there's a green and a blue. They're both the same. So they're up here at 1,000. Okay, and then it says, what is the shape of the graph? Knowing the total force and mass, calculate the acceleration. When it says calculate, you need to show your work. If you don't show your work, you'll lose points. Okay, now it says hide the force first time graph by pressing the X, and then press graph acceleration. Okay, and so here's our acceleration graph, and so we would just draw that on the lab sheet. And then it says, what is the shape of the acceleration graph? It's just a flat line. And does this agree with the second law of motion? And then it says, hide the acceleration graph by pressing an X. So I'm going to do that. Then it says graph velocity. I'm going to do that. And you see our velocity is increasing. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to, you would draw that here. And it says, what is the shape? It's a positive slope, something like that, an increasing velocity, a diagonal line in the upwards direction, something like that. Okay, now we want to change the applied force to 1600. So I'm just going to type that in there. And then press go. First, I'm going to clear it. Or rewind. Okay, and now I'm going to press 1600. And then I'm going to press go, and I'm going to watch the person push the file cabinet. You can see our graph is changing. I went down. It's going back up again. It says stop him before he leaves the edge of the screen, so I stopped him. Okay, and then knowing the new total force, right, that's 1600, that's what we put in there. And the mass in the filing cabinet, calculate acceleration below, and you're going to want to show your work right here. Okay, and then keeping the applied force at 1600, change the object that's accelerated. And so we already did the filing cabinet, and then you'll just change it to the refrigerator or the textbook or the crate, and they're all right here. And you can just click on it and it'll change it. Okay. And then I'm going to multiply the mass and the acceleration to confirm it equals the force. Okay, so they've given you a force, but then they also want you to do mass times acceleration to see if your mathematical or your calculated force matches your experimental force. And then you're going to make a graph of that. And then it's going to ask you, what does the slope represent? And then it wants you to write a paragraph explaining what you proved in the lab. Now, I don't like proven because nothing that we do actually proves anything, but what does this lab support, right? Obviously Newton's second law, or it wouldn't be called a Newton's second law lab, but what else? And then how could you have used these results to prove the second law of motion if Newton never stated it? Okay. And then you just submit that in the Dropbox folder, and that's how you do the lab.